Morning, everybody. Suprabhat, West Bengal. Let's start. Now, we have covered up in India and neighbors, India, China, India, Pakistan, and yesterday, the last class, we were responsible for covering up India Bangladesh ties. Clear? India Bangladesh ties. Now, yes, few bedroom is in Indian side and the bathroom is the Bangladeshi side. Okay, all these are things which we see in India Bangladesh relation. Now, in the last class, we have discussed the water disputes between India and Bangladesh. Then we were responsible for also discussing the Numur Island dispute between India and Bangladesh. We discussed also the issue of enclaves between India and Bangladesh. We discussed the Teen Bigha corridor and also how this issue was settled, although still the boundary happens to be very porous in nature and it is not well demarcated. But the other disputes between India and Bangladesh includes what? One dispute is the presence of radical elements in Bangladesh, which is responsible for having anti-India sentiments. For example, Banga Sena. Now, this is against the interest of India. And one dispute between the two sides pertains to what? It pertains to illegal migration. Illegal migration. So, influx of Bangladeshis takes place on a regular basis in the Indian territory. Influx of Bangladeshis takes place on a regular basis in the Indian territory. And this is responsible for disturbing the demography of India. So earlier what happened was, earlier certain tribes came from Bangladesh. And these tribes included what? These tribes included the Chakma refugees and also the Hajong tribes. So one was Chakma refugees and also the Hajong tribes. So they came from Bangladesh to India. The Chakma refugees were mainly present where? They were mainly present in Tripura. So the Chakma refugees were mainly present in Tripura and this created problem in that area. Because I told you, whenever the influx of these people takes place, it disturbs the demography of that area. Not only disturbs the demography of this area, but it would be also responsible for creating employment opportunities problem. So that's another problem. So Chakma refugees and Hajong tribes, they came from Bangladesh, they settled in Tripura. And in the year 1994, an agreement was reached between India and Bangladesh. And under this agreement, 5,200 Chakma refugees were deported back to Bangladesh. But that was in 1994. But in 2015, we can see that Supreme Court took a note of it. And the Supreme Court of India has said that the Chakma refugees and the Hajong tribes have come to India not as a matter of compulsion, not as a matter of choice, but as a matter of compulsion. Why? Because of the construction of a dam in Bangladesh, and that dam is called as what? It is called as Keptai Dam. Keptai Dam. So they came to India not as a matter of choice, but as a matter of compulsion. And this observation was made by the Supreme Court of India. So Supreme Court of India further said that they can be considered for Indian citizenship. So look at the Supreme Court of India. How great is the Supreme Court of India? So they can be considered for Indian citizenship. But attached with this is the illegal migration problem also. Clear? Illegal migration problem also. So let's see what the illegal migration problem is and how, to what magnitude it is hampering the interest of India. Clear? Write down illegal migration from Bangladesh. First of all, write down that there are some there are some radical groups in Bangladesh. There are some radical groups in Bangladesh which have there are some radical groups in Bangladesh having anti-India sentiments. Having anti-India sentiments. For example, Banga Sena. For example, Banga Sena. Banga Sena. And now come to illegal migration. Write down illegal migration. Illegal migration. And illegal migration is a concern for India. So from Bangladesh, Chakma refugees and Hajong tribe, they came to India and they settled where? They settled in Tripura. Right on, from Bangladesh, the Chakma refugees and the Hajong tribes. From Bangladesh, the Chakma refugees and the Hajong tribes. Chakma refugees and the Hajong tribes came to India. And they settled in Tripura. In the year 1994, under an agreement between the two countries, more than 5,000 Chakma refugees were deported back. More than 5,000 Chakma refugees were deported back. In the year 2015, Supreme Court made the observation that Chakma refugees and Hajong tribes, came to India not as a matter of choice, but as a matter of compulsion. This was due to construction of Keptai Dam. In Bangladesh. So that was the observation made by the Supreme Court of India, that Keptai Dam in Bangladesh was constructed, and because of that, Supreme Court said that they came to India. And further, the observation was what? That since they have stayed in India for a longer period of time, they should be considered for Indian citizenship. Right down. The Supreme Court further stated that. Since they have stayed in India for a longer period of time, they can be considered for Indian citizenship. But see, illegal migration is a big concern between India and Bangladesh. An influx of Bangladeshis takes place on a day-to-day basis in India, and this is a concern for India because the border happens to be porous. And when the fortification of this border was to be done, it was rejected by the Bangladeshi rifles. And as far as illegal migration is concerned, illegal migration is responsible for disturbing the demography of the region and also reducing the employment opportunities. It created turmoil also. So we can see illegal migration can take place due to many reasons. Illegal migration can take place due to porous border. Illegal migration can take place due to employment opportunities. Illegal migration can take place due to religious persecution. Illegal migration can take place due to touts. Illegal migration can take place due to the politics of vote bank. So all these would be responsible for illegal migration. Illegal migration. And as far as illegal migration is concerned, Assam was in a turmoil, and turmoil from 1974 to 1985 because of illegal migration from Bangladesh. So in 1985 we can see Assam Accord was signed, and Assam Accord was signed between Government of India. Okay, I'll dictate slowly. I'll dictate slowly. Fine, fine. Yes. India helped Bangladesh to get independence. At that time, India could easily join Bangladesh to India. Why India did not make Bangladesh as province of India? See, this was not on the agenda any time, because India does not want itself to be portrayed as a country which would be responsible for hegemonistic design or expansionist state. Expansionist state is responsible for capturing other territories. So we do not want our we be given a tag by the other countries that India is an expansionist state like China. So we do not want that. And capturing Bangladesh would create more problem for you than the benefits. So why should we consider taking Bangladesh along with India? Let them be friends. Clear? Let them be friends. So no offer was made by India said that join India, because if offer was made, then certainly they would have considered. Fine, and we won't be making offer to Pakistan or Bangladesh to join India, because these countries can create problem for India further. Pakistan is bankrupt. Why ask a bankrupt state to join India? Fine, and I'll dictate us. See, so these are the reasons behind. So in from 1974 to 1985, we can witness a turmoil in Assam, and this turmoil in Assam was due to illegal migration. Clear? This turmoil in Assam was due to illegal migration. Now, that's a problem. What we can witness also, that in 1985, Assam Accord was signed, and Assam Accord was signed between the Government of India and Assam Gana Parishad, Assam Students Union also. So this accord, now this accord is responsible for putting forward two dates, 1/1/1966. So all those people who migrated from Bangladesh before 1/1/1966 would be considered as Indian citizens. Clear? Would be considered as Indian citizens. So let's consider them as Indian citizens. And all those people who migrated from Bangladesh to India from 1/1/1966 to 23rd March 1971, they won't be considered as citizens, but they would be allowed to stay. Their names would be deleted from the electoral rolls. And anyone who migrated to India after 24th March 19 on or after 24th March 1971 would be considered as non-citizens of India and would be deported back. So this is called as Assam Accord. Assam Accord. And we can see that the NRC, that is National Register for Citizens, it found that 1.9 million people in Assam are not citizens of India. Citizens of India. Now this is a problem. Maybe there are some mistakes in the findings of NRC, but by and large, a number of people are present in Assam who do not have Indian citizenship, proper Indian citizenship. Clear? So that's a problem. Write down. Illegal migration is a concern between India and Bangladesh. I dictate slow. Illegal migration is a concern between India and Bangladesh. Is a concern between India and Bangladesh. Illegal migration is a concern between India and Bangladesh. Illegal migration. Illegal migration takes place due to a number of factors. Illegal migration takes place due to a number of factors. Illegal migration takes place due to number of factors, which includes porous boundary, porous border, religious persecution, religious persecution, religious persecution of minorities, a religious persecution of minorities, touts political vote bank, political vote bank. Then it can be due to better employment opportunities. That's in India. Better employment opportunities. And also it can take place due to disasters like floods and cyclones. Disasters like floods and cyclone. Disasters like floods and cyclones. And Bangladesh is always affected by cyclone. Sir, how illegal migration avoid long boundary still could not make fencing? Bangladesh and India easily pass both sides. See what happens when fencing was tried on the Indo-Bangla border. It was opposed by the Bangladeshi rifles, and they fired also when we tried to fence this border. So monitoring of this border is done, but monitoring cannot take place continuously. And there are touts present there also, there also. They would provide you Indian citizenship. And illegal migration is very smooth from the Bangladeshi territory to the Indian. Now you have a number of chief ministers in the northeast who are against this and strictly against this. They take stern action. Clear? But illegal migration has always been a phenomenon. And all these are the reasons behind illegal migration. Now, illegal migration can disturb the demography and also reduce the employment opportunity for the people in that area. Right? Illegal migration can disturb the demography. Illegal migration can disturb the demography. Can disturb the demography. And also reduce employment opportunities, and also reduce employment opportunities, also reduce employment opportunities, demography, and also reduce employment opportunities, employment opportunities. Clear? This can be done. This is always there. And as far as illegal migration is concerned, we can see that turmoil was witnessed in Assam from 1974 to 1985 due to illegal migration. Right on. A turmoil prevailed in Assam. Turmoil prevailed in Assam. Turmoil prevailed in Assam. Prevailed in Assam. Due to illegal migration, due to illegal migration, between 1974 and 1985, between 1974 and 1985, and we can see that this matter was settled when Assam Accord was signed. Around in the year 1985, in the year 1985, Assam Accord was signed. In the year 1985, 1985, Assam Accord was signed. Accord was signed between Government of India, Assam Gana Parishad, Government of India, Assam Gana Parishad, all Assam Students Union, all Assam Students Union. So Assam Accord was signed. Clear? So 1985 we can see Assam Accord being signed, Assam Gana Parishad, all Assam Students Union. Now this accord says what? This accord is responsible for putting forward to date. Right on, according to this accord, people from Bangladesh who migrated to India, before 1/1/1966, would be considered as Indian citizens. And those who migrated, between 1/1/1966 to 23rd March 1971, and those who migrated between 1/1/1966 to 23rd March 1971, would be allowed to stay, but their names would be deleted, from electoral rolls, and people who migrated after 24th, that is on and after 24th March 1971 would be considered as non-citizens of India. Write down, people who migrated on and after 24th March 1971, would be considered as non-citizens of India. And we can see the National Register for Citizens in Assam found 1.9 million people who were not citizens in India. Write down, the National Register for Citizens, found 1.9 million people in Assam. 1.9 million people in Assam who are not citizens of India. Yes, recently India got title of first most populated country in the world. Since past time, migrants are always coming in India almost whole year. Does the counting process include those people who, or without them, we got the first rank? See, we got the first rank without them only because they are not included. Maybe that they are included. Who can tell you that? You cannot easily identify them. Who would be telling you that? Because on the government records, they are citizens of India. They would have migrated in the past also. They migrate today also. And the first thing that they do is to get a Aadhaar card and get their name registered in the voter list. And that's very easy. Very easy. Clear. You have touts for that purpose also in India. You are born in India, you studied in India, your forefather is from India. You won't be eagerly trying to attain the Aadhaar card, but they do because they want to prove that they are permanent citizens of India. So, how can you be responsible for determining that are they really illegal migrants or the citizens of India? How can you identify? They speak the same language now. Even they worship the same god and goddesses that we have. This is very difficult. I told you there is only one proof that they speak a type of Bengali which is different from those people who speak Bengali in West Bengal. But even that cannot be considered as a basis because people who migrated to India at the time of independence in 1947 from East Pakistan speak the same language. So how can you say that? See, some documents are necessary for that, but all these documents can get you can get forged documents for this purpose from the touts that are functioning everywhere in India. School certificate you can get easily from them. So there are a number of touts functioning in India who are responsible for, and I know many people who are responsible for involved in this business only. First of all, legal action should be taken against these touts. Then you can check illegal migration. And then some experts from West Bengal should be examining their language, that whether they are really people of India or they have migrated very recently. They can tell you only. Otherwise, I am suppose from North India. I hardly know about the two types of languages that is spoken in West Bengal and Bangladesh. Fine. So it's certainly difficult to identify them. That's the problem. That is a concern in West Bengal. A big concern in West Bengal is that only an illegal migration which is taking place, not only Northeast, but also in West Bengal. So the states which are largely affected by illegal migration from Bangladesh includes West Bengal, Tripura, Assam, all these states. And I told you, it disturbs the demography. In some border districts of Assam, you can see that demography already has been disturbed because of this. And these people, they have a larger aim also. Clear? So they have a larger aim, but we should not go into those things, but we'll confine our study to this much only. Now, another concern between India and Bangladesh is the Chinese perspective. Why? Because see, you can see the gravity of development is shifting towards the east. One can say the gravity of development is shifting towards the east. And why so? Because US was responsible for starting Asia pivot policy. So when US started Asia Pivot policy, it wanted to concentrate mainly on Asia because the West is reeling under economic crisis. Clear? So the US wants mainly to concentrate on Southeast Asia and East Asia, where some of the fastest growing economies of the world are present. It serves the US interest. So US started a policy which is called as Asia Pivot policy. Although the informal objective of this policy is also that the supremacy of US should reign, and any challenger to US supremacy should be sidelined. For example, who can be the challengers to US supremacy? It can be challenged by Russia. But Russia is going through a phase which is even you can say economic sluggish phase. It can be challenged by the Islamic world. But then Islamic world is highly fragmented to challenge the US supremacy. So it can be challenged by only one, and that is China, both in military and economic terms. Clear? And that's why you can see the strategic dialogue between India and US is based on geographical enlargement to deliberately include the region Asia Pacific, because the objective is containment of China. So on one side we say that Asia Pivot policy started by US was to concentrate more on Southeast Asia and East Asia, but it was also for the purpose of reigning of US supremacy, where the challenger to US supremacy should be sidelined. Clear? So it's a containment China policy also. But the world is looking towards the East. The gravity of development is shifting towards the East. And for this purpose, US launched Asia Pivot policy. We can see Russia also concentrating on the East. And why Russia concentrating on the East? Because Russia wants to reduce its dependency on economic dependency on China. And this was the reason why Russia was responsible for launching the Eastern Economic Forum. And Eastern Economic Forum was launched by Russia at Vladivostok, in which 17 nations participated, which included India also. Clear? Development of this region is essential for Russia. So Russia is also trying to stop its economic dependency on China and looking for new partners. New partners include Japan, Australia, and also a trusted friend like India. Clear? So that's why Russia is looking towards the East. So if suppose a question in mains examination is asked, the gravity of economic development, global economic development is shifting towards the East, explain. So one can write about the Asia Pivot policy launched by US. Second, we can write also about the Russia's Eastern Economic Forum. It's not only Russia and US which is looking towards the East, China is also looking towards the East. Clear? And the reason for China looking towards the East is what? That China's resurgence as a global player in the world were due to number of factors. But the wage factor was one of the essential factors. That wages in China was low. Now we can see that the wages in the coastal area of China has enhanced. So China is also looking towards the East, and one partner that it has found is Bangladesh. Now after Bangladesh independence, Bangladesh invested in infrastructure. Bangladesh has a well-developed infrastructure today. Labor is cheap in Bangladesh. You have English-speaking people in Bangladesh also. But Bangladesh is lacking one thing in which China can help. Bangladesh would be responsible for manufacturing a number of commodities which it can export to other countries. But it is lacking one thing, and that is what? Which is lacking Bangladesh, that is deep seaports. Because Bangladesh has shallow seaports. And when you are responsible for exporting to other nations, you need what? You need deep seaports. Clear? You need deep seaports. For this purpose, help from China would be required. So China is trying to help Bangladesh, but China has its own interest with respect to Bangladesh. Clear? Sir, in Assam, is floods convicted area so difficult to show all the documents by all people of Assam? The data in NRC is authentic. See, I think so. Maybe 1,000 people. The data is not authentic. For 1,000 people, for 2,000 people, for 10,000 people, for 1 lakh people. But what about 1.9 million? Clear? I agree with you. People from Bangladesh are coming in India, buying lands, making home. Even they are making voter Aadhaar card. Nowadays, they are casting vote also, illegal migration. But they become legal citizens as they have voter Aadhaar card. How that can be possible? Our administrative system is weak in this. See, not only our administrative system is weak. One agenda is also the political vote bank. Clear? One agenda is also a politics, and some of these people, they have earned seats in the legislature also. They are Bangladeshis, but you cannot prove them that they are Bangladeshis. I cannot cite example from this forum. Fine. Sir, why Bangladeshi people need to come to India in an illegal manner, as we know that there are some legal ways and some mentioned in the sea. There are some, but illegal migration is very easy for them. And main agenda is what? Main agenda is employment opportunities of India. For them, India is nothing but a region where more and more employment opportunities are present for these people. That's the reason. Fine, nothing. Uh, China was responsible for what? China was responsible for investing $9 billion in the Chittagong commercial hub. So it is developing the Chittagong port also. $9 billion in the Chittagong commercial hub, and would be connecting Chittagong with the Mekong region. Would be responsible for connecting Chittagong with the Mekong region. So this would be done by China. Now this is a concern for India. Although we can see that Bangladesh policy, foreign policy, is to always equalize its relationship with India, Japan and China. India, Japan and China. And also Bangladesh Look East policy is to end its dependency on India. Clear? On the other hand, this policy of Bangladesh matches with the policy of China. Why? Because China wants access to the Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh and Myanmar, as it wants to challenge the hegemon, according to them, the hegemonistic design, the supremacy of India in this region. For that, Bangladesh is required. Clear? So both their interests match with each other, and I told you also that on one side Bangladesh is doing this, but on other side Bangladesh is trying to develop balance in its relationship with China, India and also Japan. Clear? Right on the Chinese concern. The Chinese concern. The Chinese concern. The gravity of global development. The gravity of global development. The gravity of global development is shifting to the east. The gravity of global development is shifting to the east. Shifting to the east. US was responsible for enunciating. US was responsible for enunciating Asia pivot policy. US was responsible for enunciating Asia pivot policy. Asia pivot policy. US was responsible for enunciating Asia pivot policy. To concentrate more on East Asia and Southeast Asia, to concentrate more on East Asia and Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia. On the other hand, Russia has also launched Eastern Economic Forum. On the other hand, Russia has also launched Eastern Economic Forum. Eastern Economic Forum. On the other hand, Russia has also launched Eastern Economic Forum. And as far as the look east policy of China is concerned, now China wants better ties with Bangladesh. Clear? China is investing a lot in Bangladesh and wants better ties in Bangladesh. And what is the reason? Write down. China is investing a lot and what? And wants better ties with Bangladesh. China is investing a lot and wants better ties in Bangladesh. Better ties with Bangladesh. Better ties with Bangladesh. Bangladesh today has a well-developed infrastructure. Skilled people, skilled workforce, skilled professionals, skilled English-speaking professionals, and also low wages, and also low labor wages, Clear? Now these are in favor of China. On the other hand, we can see that the wages in China, particularly in the coastal areas, have enhanced. So the leverage that China had of low wages is being lost. Right out. On the other hand, the leverage that China had of low wages, is no longer there. As the wages in the coastal area of China, have enhanced. So Bangladesh is a preferred destination for China. Write down. As such, Bangladesh is a preferred destination for China. Bangladesh is a preferred destination for China. Clear? But Bangladesh lacks what? On one side, China wants an access to Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh, and also wants to check the supremacy of India in this region with the help of Bangladesh. Right down. On one side, China wants an access to Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh, and also wants to check the supremacy of India. And also wants to check the supremacy of India. So that's what China is. China wants. Clear? And on the other side, Bangladesh wants to be partners of China, becomes partner of China in its 21st century march, and also wants to end its economic dependency on India. Right on. On the other hand, Bangladesh, I hope my speed is not very fast. On the other hand, Bangladesh wants to partner China, wants to partner China in its 21st century march, in its 21st century march ahead. And the Look East policy of Bangladesh is for ending the economic dependency that Bangladesh has on India. Right down. And the Look East policy of Bangladesh, and the Look East policy of Bangladesh, and the Look East policy of Bangladesh is for ending the economic dependency on India, is for ending the economic dependency on India, ending the economic dependency on India. Clear? That's the Look East policy of Bangladesh. So they should end economic dependency on India. That's about Bangladesh. But as far as India-Bangladesh relation is concerned, remember that Bangladesh, this is one part, but another policy of Bangladesh is also that Bangladesh wants to balance in its relationship with India, Japan, and China. Right? On the other hand, Bangladesh also wants to. On the other hand, Bangladesh also wants to balance its relationship with. On the other hand, Bangladesh also wants to balance its relationship with China, India, and Japan. China, India, and Japan. Clear? India and Japan. And one challenge for Bangladesh is what? That Bangladesh has enhanced its exports, but facing a problem of deep sea ports, because the ports in Bangladesh are shallow. Right on. Bangladesh has enhanced its exports. But in order to increase it further, deep sea ports are required. But Bangladesh today has shallow ports. So we can see China is helping Bangladesh to develop deep sea ports. China is helping Bangladesh to develop deep sea ports. China is helping Bangladesh to develop deep sea ports. So Chinese have invested $9 billion in the Chittagong commercial hub and connecting it with Mekong region. Right on. China has invested $9 billion in the Chittagong commercial hub, and connecting it with Mekong region and connecting it with Mekong region. Mekong region. And another concern for India is what? Another concern for India is the interest that Indian neighbors show in China. So that is another concern. And Bangladesh today is not only purchasing arms from China, but also conducting joint military exercise with China. And on Bangladesh today is not only responsible for Bangladesh today is not only responsible for purchasing arms from China, not only responsible for purchasing arms from China, but also conducting joint military exercise with them, but also conducting joint military exercise with them, joint military exercise with them, military exercise with them. Is that clear? Fine. Now these are concern of India. On the other hand, to make India happy, to make Japan happy, Bangladesh has offered the Pyara port to be developed by India and also the Matabari port to be developed by Japan. And on the other hand, Bangladesh has offered Pyara port to be developed by India. Pyara port to be developed by India. Port to be developed by India. And Matabari port to be developed by Japan. And why? Because Bangladesh tries to balance its relationship with India, China and Japan. Clear? So that's why these ports have been provided to India and Japan, because it wants to balance its relationship with India, Japan and China. Clear? So these are the concerns. All these are the concerns. See, if we look at the breakthroughs, the agreements, we can see in 1971 itself, a friendship agreement was signed between the two sides for lasting peace, to respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And also, joint action would be taken by two sides for floods. This famous agreement is called as Indira Mujib Agreement. Indira Mujib Agreement. So this continues. Clear? And the connectivity between the two countries was developed in the year 1999 when Dhaka-Kolkata bus service was launched. And not only Dhaka-Kolkata bus service, but also in the year 2001, we can see Agartala-Kolkata bus service was launched. 2008 is the year when Maitri Express started running between Kolkata and Dhaka. So Maitri Express started running between Kolkata and Dhaka. And then we can see the two sides have established joint river commission, joint economic commission, joint working group for security. Both are members of BIMSTEC. Both are members of South Asia Growth Quadrangle. So both are members of BIMSTEC, South Asia Growth Quadrangle. So that can be said about the cooperation between the two sides. Fine. 2016 is the year when we started energy train for Bangladesh, because high-speed diesel from Numaligarh in Assam would be supplied by this train to Parvatipur in Bangladesh. So that was started. And we can see the bilateral trade between the two sides is more than $10 billion. In the year 2021, another initiative was taken. The Maitri Bridge was inaugurated over the Feni River by the Prime Minister to connect Bangladesh with Tripura, state of India. So that initiative was taken. So all these are the major initiatives which have been taken in the recent years. All these are the major initiative. And we can see that we are moving ahead for signing a SIPA agreement comprehensive economic partnership agreement. So we are moving ahead in that direction to sign a CEPA agreement. The framework also has been signed. Increasing engagement between Bangladesh and armed forces and US Asia Pacific Command is being seen recently. What is the implication of it for India? See, US is responsible for utilizing either India or it can utilize also Bangladesh, and the purpose would be to counterbalance China. So US is seeking new partners, and Bangladesh is not a new partner for US. Bangladesh has partnership with US from the time of uh, Pakistan 1947 itself, because Pakistan was an ally of US. See, implication for India is not dangerous as such, any kind of implication. Sir, some Bangladeshi claim that manipulate Bangladeshi's general election, that India manipulate Bangladeshi's general election. Is it true? No, it cannot be true. India cannot be involved in that. Although Indian intelligence forces today are a very strong force. You can see that those who have opposed India and disrespected India, particularly the separatist Khalistanis, have been killed. Who killed them? I cannot say that it was NIA or RAW which was responsible for killing it. But they have been killed. It's a matter of fact. The way Russia invaded Ukraine, we have to invade in Bangladesh if required, as China becomes challenged day by day. See, these are hypothetical questions, and India cannot be an invader. We have never invaded any country as such. Have you seen in history we invaded any country? At the time of kings that was done, but not. We are never responsible for, as India, we are never responsible for invading any other nation. So we should not do that. See, we can be responsible for exerting pressure on these countries, because this is not the era of war. Clear. Prime Minister Modi has himself said that this is not the era of war. We should be responsible for pressurizing these nations. That should be the political or economic instrument used by the state of India, which would be serving India's interest. Clear? So that we can do. Fine. In 1971, a friendship agreement was signed between. In 1971, a friendship agreement was signed between. Friendship agreement was signed between India and Bangladesh. India and Bangladesh for lasting peace. For lasting peace. And also to respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And also to respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Territorial integrity and sovereignty. Both the sides would be working jointly to control floods. Both the sides would be working jointly to control the floods. This agreement was famously called as. This agreement was famously called as Indira Mujib Agreement. Indira Mujib Agreement. Indira Mujib Agreement. Both the sides have established Joint River Commission. Both the sides have established Joint River Commission, Joint Economic Commission, Joint River Commission, Joint Economic Commission, Joint Working Group, Joint Working Group for Security, Joint Working Group for Security. The connectivity between the two nations, have been enlarged, have been widened. The connectivity between the two nations have been widened by commencing of Kolkata Dhaka bus service, 1999, Kolkata Agratala bus service, 2001, and resumption of train route when Maitri Express started to ply between Kolkata and Dhaka in 2008. Started to ply between Kolkata and Dhaka in 2008. And we can see both the countries are what? Both the countries are members of not only BIMSTEC but also the South Asia Growth Quadrangle. Clear? Around both the countries are members of BIMSTEC. Both the countries are members of BIMSTEC. And also South Asia. Growth Quadrangle. South Asia Growth Quadrangle. And also South Asia Growth Quadrangle. Both are members of that. Clear? And in the year 2016, we can see energy agreement was signed between the two countries when India agreed to supply high-speed diesel from Numaligarh in Assam to Parbatipur in Bangladesh. Right down. In 2016, energy agreement was signed between the two countries. Energy agreement was signed between the two countries. And India started to supply high-speed diesel. From Numaligarh in Assam through train to Parbatipur in Bangladesh. Numaligarh in Assam to Parbatipur in Bangladesh. So this agreement was reached. A high-speed diesel was supplied from Assam to Bangladesh. Clear? So that was done. And we can see in the year 2021, Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Mr. Modi, inaugurated the Maitri Bridge on the Feni River to connect Bangladesh with Tripura. Right down. In the year 2021, Prime Minister Mr. Modi inaugurated Maitri Bridge on the Feni River Feni River to connect Tripura with Bangladesh. To connect Tripura with Bangladesh. And we can see that the bilateral trade between the two sides is of $10 billion, which needs to be spurted up. Write down the bilateral trade between the two sides. The bilateral trade between the two sides is of the bilateral trade between the two sides is of $10 billion, which needed to be spurted up. $10 billion, which needed to be spurted up. Clear? But the Kushiara agreement you have just now, we have registered, we have discussed that. Water disputes, engagement of China, we have discussed that how is the Chinese engagement present in Bangladesh. But look at one question always, and that is how the gravity of economic development is shifting towards the east. And I have told you that US was responsible for launching Asia Pivot Policy. And why Asia Pivot Policy? Because US is no longer interested in West, as the Western world is reeling under economic crisis. US is no longer interested in West Asia also. And US wants to emphasize on its relationship with Southeast Asia and East Asia, where some of the fastest growing economies of the world is present. So we can see that this policy of US is for this purpose, but there's another inherent objective of this policy, and that is that the US supremacy should reign. Clear, US supremacy should reign. And as far as US supremacy is concerned, it cannot be challenged by Russia, which is undergoing an sluggish economic phase. Neither it can be challenged by the Islamic world, which is fragmented in nature. So the wherewithal to challenge US supremacy is only with whom? Only with China, in both military and economic terms. And that's why I have told you that the strategic dialogue between India and US is based on geographical enlargement to include the region Asia Pacific, because containment of China is also one of the objective of Asia Pivot Policy of US. This policy was formally started in the year 2012 under the Barack Obama administration, but glimpses of this policy can be noticed much earlier. During the days of Clinton administration or Bush administration also, glimpses of this policy can be noticed. And how we can say? Because a large number of weapons were deployed in Guam. Guam is in the Oceania region during this period. And also not only this was done, but the Changi naval base was upgraded for this purpose. It is in Singapore, US base. Clear? And then formally this policy was announced in the year 2012, through which US would be developing, first of all, commercial, cultural ties with countries of Southeast Asia and East Asia, which would be graduating into economic partnership and also strategic alliance. The purpose is containment of China. So initially spurt was the proper momentum was given to this policy, but soon there was a lackluster approach. So rebalancing to this policy was done by Mr. Obama during his last few days, when he paid visit to two important countries. One country was what? One country was Japan, and second was Vietnam. Both these countries are the countries with whom US has a troubled past, and you know how the troubled past is there. Both these countries are the countries with which US has a troubled past. But on the other hand, these countries are significant for US in persuasion of this policy. Why? Because Vietnam is one of the fastest growing economies of the world, with a growth registered of more than 7% in the last 20 years. And Japan is the development construct of this area, because it's responsible for technology, transference of technology, and also fund to other nation. On the other hand, we can see that Russia has also launched the Eastern Economic Forum. So Russia is also looking towards the East, Russia is also looking towards the east, and the Eastern Economic Forum was launched at Vladivostok, and India is a partner in Eastern Economic Forum. Vladivostok has a tremendous respect in India because the naval fleet which was responsible for checking US enterprise in the year 1971 in Bay of Bengal came from Vladivostok, and this region of Russia is not very well developed, and Russia wants to end its economic dependency on China. And then we have discussed China itself has its east-looking policy through which it wants greater engagement with Bangladesh, which is a growing concern for India because it wants to access Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh and also to check the supremacy of India. On the other hand, Bangladesh is certainly Bangladesh has also launched Look East policy through which it wants to reduce its economic dependency on India, and Bangladesh wants to partner China in its 21st century march ahead. Clear. But on the other hand, Bangladesh also wants to balance its relationship with India, Japan and China. That's all about India-Bangladesh relations. Clear. So all these developments. Now, let's take up another relation. That's a small relation, and that relation is what? Let me see your questions, queries. See, as far as Bangladesh and US signing the General Security of Military Information Agreement and acquisition of cross-servicing agreement in 2022 is concerned, it's not a matter of concern for India. And why it's not a matter of concern for India? Because for strategic reasons, we have signed a number of such agreements with US. We have signed an agreement with US which is called as JSOMIA, General Security of Military Information Agreement, and that dates back to the year 2002. We have signed an agreement with US which is called as LEMOA, Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, and that has been signed with US in the year 2016. Then we were responsible for, under the 2+2 dialogue, we were responsible for signing another agreement with US which was called as COMCASA, Communication Compatibility and Security Agreement. And then finally in the year 2020, we were responsible for signing another agreement with US which is called as BECA, Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. So all these agreements, there are 4 agreements in the league with US, which has enhanced our strategic partnership with US. The General Security of Military Information 2002, then also, now this is for secured military exchanges between the two countries. LEMOA was signed in the year 2016, Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Understanding. Why? Because this is for the purpose of what? Using each other's military bases for repair and replenishment of supplies. That was done by India with US. And when this agreement was signed, questions were raised, criticism of India was made also that India is responsible for surrendering its sovereignty. But then the US came to the rescue of India by saying that India has the right to walk away from this agreement anytime. And the reason for signing these agreements with US is what? Growing proximity between India and US, and also the growing assertiveness of China. Not only the growing proximity between India and US, but also the growing assertiveness of China. Control over Indian Ocean is one of the reasons. Clear. This would be helping India in humanitarian relief, disaster management. So that would be helpful for India. But then the challenge came. The criticism was not only domestic, but Russia also criticized it. Because Russia said that if India moves ahead with US like this, it would be responsible for infringing the friendship agreement that we signed with India in 1971. But India hardly cared. Because India is for strategic autonomy these days. We can sign any agreement with other countries, it fulfills national interests. So we can zero it on all imports from Iran under the US pressure, but when it comes to importing of or purchasing of S-400 air defense system from Russia, we won't come under US pressure. So even they warn us by invoking of CAATSA, we won't be coming under US pressure anyhow. Clear. And then when we went ahead and signed agreement with also US in the year 2018, which is called as what? Which is called as Communication Compatibility Security Arrangement, COMCASA. And this is for what? Through this agreement, India would be provided encrypted devices through which Indian military commanders can have uninterrupted communication with aircrafts, clear, and ships. So that's called as COMCASA. And finally, we ended it by signing an agreement with US, and that's called as BECA, that is Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. And this agreement was signed by between the two sides in the year 2020. Clear? 2020, and the purpose is exchange of aeronautical and topographical data which would be helping the two countries for better navigation and targeting. So we have strengthened our partnership with US, particularly strategic partnership, by signing all these agreements. I hope that's clear. This is not a concern for us. Already we have signed these agreements with US earlier. And also, just remind you that we have signed AXA agreement with the agreement that you are mentioning, AXA agreement with acquisition of cross servicing agreement, and that is what? That is with Japan in the year 2018. So the two countries would, the forces of two countries would utilize this agreement for servicing and supplies. That's the purpose, that the question that you have asked. Clear? So not a matter of concern for us. See, when you're talking about the questions like why is not possible for South Indian nations single currency visa free among just like European Union and Eurozone, would we agree for that? No. Particularly India won't agree, because this can create problem for India. This can create problem for India. You can see radical elements present in Bangladesh. You can see from Nepal also. ISI has a foothold in Nepal also. They are responsible for supplying counterfeit currency to India. So how these agreements would be fruitful for us? Even though suppose we sign, would it turn out to be fruitful for us? Not at all. And I don't think that India would agree. India would agree. Because we do not want the influx of people taking place from other countries to the territory of India. Already India has a big population. No more people is required. Clear? So this should not be done. It should not be, this system should not come into existence. Now, let's deal with another small nation. Bangladesh was not a small nation, but this is tremendously small nation, and this nation is called as what? This nation is Bhutan. So let's study today also short relationship that we will be covering up, and that's your India-Bhutan ties. India-Bhutan ties. And we will be considering this relationship in a different manner. We will be discussing the different kinds of perspective. So let's take up this relationship and one by one try to cover up different perspective. One perspective of this relationship is what? One perspective of this relationship we can say is external security perspective. The second perspective of this relationship is what? It is internal security perspective. The third perspective of this relationship is what? The third perspective is ecological perspective. And the fourth perspective of this relationship is historical perspective. So let's see what we are talking about. Now, as far as India-Bhutan ties are concerned, when you talk about external security perspective means what? That Bhutan is a buffer state between India and China. So Bhutan is a buffer state between India and China. And for long, British India always had the policy of having a buffer state with China. So initially it was a buffer state between India and Tibet, and after the annexation of Tibet by China, it became a buffer state between India and China. Clear? India and China. Now that's one perspective, but we also know that at the tri-junction of India, the Sikkim, Bhutan and China is the Chumbi Valley situated. Chumbi Valley situated. And as far as the Chumbi Valley is concerned, Doklam is also situated there only. Chumbi Valley is concerned, this valley is only 50 kilometer away from Siliguri corridor. This valley is only 50 kilometers away from Siliguri corridor, and that is the connect that we have with the northeast region. So that is the connect that we have with the northeast region. So that's called as the external security perspective. Clear? External security perspective. Write down. India-Bhutan relations. India-Bhutan relations. This relationship is guided by the following perspectives. This relationship is guided by the following perspectives. First, the internal security perspective. The external security perspective. First, the external security perspective. The external security perspective. Security perspective. Write down. Bhutan is a buffer state. Bhutan is a buffer state between India and China. Bhutan is a buffer state between India and China. British India always maintained the policy. Of having a buffer state. British India always maintained the policy of having a buffer state. With China. And after China capturing Tibet. Captured Tibet. It became a buffer state between India and China. After China captured Tibet, it became a buffer state between India and China. Now that's one perspective. The second perspective is what? The second perspective here is the Chumbi Valley, which is situated at the tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan, is only 50 kilometers away from Gwadar. Write down. The Chumbi Valley the Chumbi Valley, which is situated, the Chumbi Valley, which is situated at the tri-junction of, which is situated at the tri-junction of China, Bhutan and India. China, Bhutan and India. Bhutan and India is situated only 50 kilometer away, is situated only 50 kilometer away, only 50 kilometer away from Siliguri corridor. From Siliguri corridor. Siliguri corridor. 50 kilometer away from Siliguri corridor. And Siliguri corridor, you know, this is the only connect that we have with of the Indian mainland with the northeast state. So that's a concern. But if we talk about the internal security perspective, we can see that there are many internal security perspectives. One perspective is what? That Bhutan is situated on the narco trade route which originates from Nepal. That's one thing. The second thing is what? The second thing is that a number of insurgent groups of the northeast, they have camps. They have camps in Bhutan. So in the year 2003, an operation was launched, and this operation, joint operation by the two sides, was called as what? Which was called as Operation All Clear. So this joint operation by the two sides was called as Operation All Clear, and this operation was responsible for removing. Insurgent camps. This operation was responsible for removing insurgent camps of, the camps of insurgent groups of northeast, jointly by India and Bhutan. It was done in the year 2003. And as far as the third concern is, the third concern in internal security perspective is that there is a dispute between Nepal and Bhutan. And this dispute is that of Bhupalis. Bhupalis means the people of Bhutan who migrated to Nepal earlier. They have settled there. So they have been called as Bhupalis. Nepal wants their eviction, but Bhutan is not ready to accept. Bhutan says that they migrated much earlier. So they should be present where? They should be present in Nepal only. They migrated much earlier. They should be present in Nepal only. But these people have anti-India feeling. So anti-India feeling is not among these people only. Anti-India feeling can be seen in the Communist Party of Bhutan also and also Nepal. Clear? So all these are internal security perspective. Write down internal security perspective. Internal security perspective. Internal security perspective. A number of insurgent groups of the northeast. A number of insurgent groups of the northeast. A number of insurgent groups of the northeast. Of northeast have camps in Bhutan. Have camps in Bhutan. A number of insurgent groups of the northeast have camps in Bhutan. Have camps in Bhutan. In the year 2003, in the year 2003, India and Bhutan, in the year 2003, India and Bhutan launched Operation All Clear. Launched Operation All Clear. Launched Operation All Clear for removing these camps. For removing these camps. Launched Operation All Clear for removing these camps. Clear? So that's the first thing. First internal security perspective. The second internal security perspective is what? That Bhutan is situated on the narco route which originates from Nepal. Write down. Bhutan is situated. Bhutan is situated. Bhutan is situated on the narco route. On the narco route. Narco trade route. Narco trade route which originates from Nepal. Narco trade route which originates from Nepal. Which originates from Nepal. So that's the second internal security perspective. And third internal security perspective is that Bhupalis have anti-India sentiment, anti-India feeling. But why should they have anti-India feeling? Clear? Because they are close to the Communist Party of Bhutan. Right on Bhupalis. Bhupalis have anti-India feeling. Bhupalis have anti-India feeling. Anti-India feeling. And who are Bhupalis? Bhupalis are people of Bhutan who have settled in Nepal. Nepal wants their eviction, but Bhutan is not ready to accept. Write down. Bhupalis are people of Bhutanese origin. Bhupalis are peoples of Bhutanese origin. Peoples of Bhutanese origin. Who have settled. People of Bhutanese origin who have settled in Nepal. Who have settled in Nepal. And we can see that Nepal wants its eviction, their eviction. Bhutan is not ready to accept. Right on. Nepal wants their eviction. Nepal wants their eviction. Nepal wants their eviction. But Bhutan is not ready to accept. Nepal wants their eviction. But Bhutan is not ready to accept. Bhutan says that these people have stayed in Nepal for centuries, years. Why should they come back to Bhutan? Clear? And India does not intervene in that matter. Now, ecological perspective is there also. But why? Because Bhutan is not only a carbon neutral nation but also carbon negative nation, because it has not only neutralized its emission. Just one second. So we can see that Bhutan not only is a carbon neutral nation but also carbon negative nation. And India participated in the Save Himalaya Climate Summit, which was organized by Bhutan in the year 2011 and is a part of it. And is a part of it. Write down ecological perspective. Ecological perspective. Ecological perspective. Ecological perspective. Bhutan is not only Bhutan is not only Bhutan is not only a carbon neutral nation, a carbon neutral nation, but also a carbon negative nation, but also a carbon negative nation. Also carbon negative nation. And we can see that India partners Bhutan in the Save Himalayan in the Summit for Saving of Himalayas, which was started by Bhutan in the year 2011. Write down. India is a partner. India is a partner in the Summit for Saving of Himalayas. In the Summit for Saving of Himalayas. Saving of Himalayas. Which was started by Bhutan in 2011. Which was started by Bhutan in 2011. Bhutan in 2011. So that's your ecological perspective. But when we talk about historical perspective, we can see that in the 6th century BC, a scholar from India, Buddhist scholar from India, went to Bhutan, and his name was what? His name was Padmasambhava. He was responsible for preaching in Bhutan a type of Buddhism which was called as Nyingmapa. But soon there was an influence of Tibetan Buddhism on Nyingmapa, and a new form of Buddhism developed which is called as Drukpa. So presently we can see the Buddhism which is prevailing in Bhutan is nothing but Drukpa Buddhism. So type of Buddhism developed which was called as. Itself, if you see Tibetan Buddhism is of Vajrayana type. It's of Vajrayana type, which believes in magical spells. But this is not the only historical perspective that we would be emphasizing on. See, in the year 1784, the British government got an access to Bhutanese timber. And in 1864, a civil war broke out in Bhutan. And British government assured that no other countries takes the advantage of it. Clear, no countries take the advantage of, particularly Russia could have taken the advantage of it. So British government was responsible for supporting a group in that civil war. And this group was called as the Wangchuk group. So when the war ended in the year 1907, Wangchuk regime came into power. Wangchuk regime came into power. This you have to know. Write down historical perspective. Historical perspective. Historical perspective. In 6th BC, Buddhist scholar from India, Buddhist scholar from India, Padmasambhava, British scholar from India, Padmasambhava, went to Bhutan, went to Bhutan to spread his religion, went to Bhutan to spread his religion, to spread his religion, and founded a type of Buddhism in Bhutan, and founded a type of Buddhism in Bhutan, which was called as Nyingmapa Buddhism. Founded a type of Buddhism in Bhutan, which was called as Nyingmapa Buddhism. Nyingmapa Buddhism. She was responsible for starting a new type of Buddhism, and that was called as Nyingmapa. But soon we can see there was the influence of Tibetan Buddhism on it, and a new variant developed which was called as Drukpa. Right on. But soon there was influence of but soon there was influence of Tibetan Buddhism on it. Tibetan Buddhism on it, which is a Vajrayana Buddhism, which is Vajrayana Buddhism. Vajrayana Buddhism, and believes in magical spells, and believes in magical spells. So due to this influence, due to this impact, a new form of Buddhism developed in Bhutan, and that is called as what? That's called as Drukpa Buddhism. Right on. Due to this impact, a new form of Buddhism developed in Bhutan. Due to this impact, a new form of Buddhism developed in Bhutan. A new form of Buddhism developed in Bhutan called Drukpa Buddhism. A new form of Buddhism developed in Bhutan called Drukpa Buddhism. Drukpa Buddhism. And the historical perspective cannot be only related to this. The historical perspective also includes the civil war which Bhutan faced. Civil war which Bhutan faced. Just 1 second. In 1784, the British got access to Bhutanese timber. The British got access to Bhutanese timber, and in 1864, a civil war broke out in Bhutan. A civil war broke out in Bhutan. A civil war broke out in Bhutan, in which British was responsible for supporting. Wangchuk regime. British was responsible for supporting Wangchuk regime. Clear? And after the civil war ended in 1907, Wangchuk regime came to power in Bhutan. Right on. After the civil war ended in the year 1907. Wangchuk regime. Wangchuk regime came into power. Wangchuk regime came into power. So initially Bhutan was what? Initially Bhutan was absolute monarchy, but post 2001 it has been converted into what? It has been converted into constitutional monarchy. Clear? Right now, initially Bhutan was absolute monarchy. Initially Bhutan was absolute monarchy. Initially Bhutan was absolute monarchy. But in 2001, it was converted into constitutional monarchy. In 2001, it was converted into constitutional monarchy. Converted into constitutional monarchy. Is that clear? And we can see in constitutional monarchy, the king is the guardian of all religion. And as far as the Supreme Court of Bhutan is concerned, the Supreme Court is nothing but the guardian of institution, the guardian of constitution as such. So we can see the king is the guardian of all religion, and the Supreme Court is the guardian of constitution. Right down. In this kind of monarchy, that's constitutional monarchy that we are talking about. In this kind of monarchy, the king is the guardian of all religion. The king is the guardian of all religion. Guardian of all religion. Guardian of all religion. But the Supreme Court, is the guardian of constitution. But the Supreme Court is the guardian of constitution. Constitution. And we can see that Bhutan has, see, bicameral legislature, and it has differences with Nepal, but it has no differences with Bangladesh. And in fact, it has a free trade agreement with Bangladesh. Fine. Right on. Bhutan has differences with Nepal over Bhupalis. Bhutan has differences with Nepal over Bhupalis. Over Bhupalis. Bhutan has differences with Nepal over Bhupalis. But has a well-developed partnership with Bangladesh. But has a well-developed partnership with Bangladesh. Partnership with Bangladesh. But has a well-developed partnership with Bangladesh. With Bangladesh, it also has a free trade agreement. With Bangladesh, it also has a free trade agreement. With Bangladesh, it also has a free trade agreement. Now come to our perspective. When India became independent, our relationship with Bhutan started on a very sweet note. And what was the sweet note that we are referring to? There was a demand made by Bhutan that India transfer 32 square miles of a territory in the Devangiri district of Assam. Devangiri district of Assam. And this territory was transferred by India. So this was nothing but a goodwill gesture towards Bhutan, and our relationship started on a sweet note. Write down the relationship between India and Bhutan. The relationship between India and Bhutan started on a sweet note. The relationship between India and Bhutan started on a sweet note. Started on a sweet note when India transferred. When India transferred India transferred 32 square miles 32 square miles of territory 32 square miles of territory in Divangiri district of Assam, in Divangiri district of Assam, to Bhutan. And why this was done? Because Bhutan wanted this for what? Bhutan wanted this territory for commercial purpose. Write down. Bhutan wanted this territory for commercial purpose. Bhutan wanted this territory for commercial purpose. Sir, we see some bureaucrats from Bhutan and Nepal in Lavasna during their training. Yes. See, they are trained by India only. Not only Bhutan, Nepal also. And the Royal Bhutan Army is also trained in India. Clear? They also have been trained in India. Similarly, training is being done to Nepalese also. So they have been trained in India. Fine. Let's take a break and then continue.